A story about Wesley Crusher, a name synonymous with fan hate. As Robot Chicken put it, the rage against the character was bordering on dangerous. Season 1 so shoved the character down their throats that he came in second place in a poll of most annoying SF characters, losing out only to Jar Jar Binks. Now, it takes a lot to make people despise you almost as much as someone who steps in poop and makes goofy sounds afterwards, and it takes even more to try to recover from that. By Season 4, Will Wheaton asked to be let out of his contract to pursue other, less ass-rapey options. But he returned 3 more times for the show, plus 1 in an alternate universe for parallels. And this is the second, coming later in the same season as the game, and being a much better chance for the character. In the game, Wesley went back to his roots, trying to save the Enterprise while all around him were clueless or helpless. This time, the Enterprise isn't in danger, it's Wesley who is. The Enterprise is returning to Earth so Picard can give a speech for the Academy, giving them a chance to reflect on their own times there.
My superintendent was a Betazoid, full telepath. When he sent for you to his office, he didn't have to ask what you'd done.
Oh, let's laugh and try not to think about how creepy that is. But they soon get a message from the Academy for Picard. In private, of course, because a place that puts mind readers in charge obviously values privacy, and informs Picard that there was an accident.
He had second-degree burns of the chest and multiple fractures of his right arm.
And that's just what the nurses did to him after talking to him for 5 minutes. Wesley was part of a 5-man flight team called Nova Squadron who were to perform for the event, but there was an accident during practice and one, Joshua Albert, died. They were flying around Titan, but emergency beam-out dropped them off at a station around Mimas, a moon around Saturn that is not Titan, so that's really good. We bought the whole solar system, so like the Buffalo, we should use it all and get our money's worth. Naturally, they're going to have an official investigation into this, and Picard offers up the Enterprise to help, since, investigating the hell out of stuff is kind of their thing. But the Admiral thinks they can handle this one themselves, so Picard has no excuse not to go and visit Wesley, damn it. But it's a visit cut short when Squad Leader Locarno arrives. By the way, it may be the future where cadet dorm rooms are now the size of a small apartment, but even they can't have sliding doors. No, they have to settle for old-fashioned swinging doors with those handles that velociraptors can open. But Wesley has more to worry about than cloned and big dinosaurs. Locarno is here to assure him that it'll all be fine if they stick together, followed by the ominous music so that we can be certain that this is ominous. Meanwhile, Picard has taken this chance to visit Boothby, the groundskeeper and cantankerous old geezer, which of course means he's Picard's friend. Well, something like that. Picard takes this opportunity to thank Boothby for his help, convincing the young Picard to do the right thing.
I just wanted to, while I was here. Look, you know as well as I do, I would never have graduated if you...
You made a mistake. There isn't a man among us who hasn't been young enough to make one.
What it was, we never find out, and we don't need to. The importance of the fact that something did happen, a sign that Picard's actions weren't just that of a brash young man like we learned in Tapestry, but that he almost got himself kicked out over it, will be a subtle but very relevant fact soon. But let's get back to the cadets, who are nervous at having to give their deposition to the Admiral and what I can only assume is a Romulan visitor, because Vulcans just aren't this scowly. I was thinking of Picard's family, and at first, I assumed it was because Boothby's relationship with Picard implied that he was the father figure absent from his life, given that the Picard household was involved in a blood feud with Joy and Happiness. But perhaps it was because this Vulcan guy seems like he'd fit right in there. I'd tell you to live long and prosper, but as a Starfleet officer, my first duty is to tell the truth. So I hope you die poor, alone, surrounded by people cursing your name and spitting on you. And my salute's different from other Vulcans, too. It's just this one finger. Anyway, Locarno gives his testimony as to what happened, that they were flying in their standard formation, then they moved into a diamond shape to prepare for a Jaeger loop, but instead wound up pulling the less awe-inspiring Magoo pileup. It seems straightforward, but there's some inconsistencies, like the fact that they deviated from their flight plan and that they were flying on sensors alone for a maneuver that is normally done visually, leading to court-wide mutterings of confused indignation that demand the tapping of the bell of shut up.
You were flying a ship, traveling 80,000 kph, with Cadet Albert's ship less than 10 meters away, and you don't know what his orientation was?
No one asked and no one told, ma'am. As she's getting grilled over this, Locarno finally steps up and says that it's all the dead guy's fault. And while it gets them out of that jam, it raises the question of why they allowed him to fly if he wasn't ready. Every time they try to block a line of inquiry that they don't like, they just add something new that they have to deal with. Sir Walter Scott's expression really applies here. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. And these people are tangling the hell out of themselves here into one big group wedgie. The way things are going, they're going to have to claim that Joshua was a robot they built in a lab and had to destroy so that he wouldn't take over the universe. The team doesn't take Locarno's comments well either, but a few words from him puts the ladies at ease. But Wesley's still uncomfortable both with misleading the investigators and with blaming their friend without really knowing what happened themselves. But Locarno suddenly gives a speech to appeal to all that will be waiting for them, once they get past this nuisance of a death inquiry. So Wesley agrees to go along with the plan when they examine the data from his flight recorder tomorrow. And it's not easy. That evening, as Wesley tries to prep for his deception, he gets a visit from Lieutenant Commander Shane von Giltington, who found out Wesley's god-awful Season 1 sweaters were in Joshua's room and thought it'd be a nice thing to carry the guilt in.
I realized it was his fault. That everybody could have been killed.
Thank you, sir. And I wanted to add, no, that's all right. No, Wes, I have to acknowledge the fact I raised a complete failure of a son.
And I want to say that, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that he let you down.
Thank you for the sweater, sir. I think I'll go hang myself with it. So Wesley describes the events for his hearing, trying not to crap himself the whole time.
Do you have anything to add to your testimony?
No, sir.
Your soul now belongs to me, the Lord of all worms. The Prince of Darkness then pulls out an unexpected bit of evidence, a still shot from before the crash that shows that they're all out of formation. Pretty damning evidence. Oh boy, how do you answer this, huh? Well, the answer, of course, is to remember something that all children learn quickly to deal with unwanted consequences. I don't know. But what comes with being a child? The string attached. Yes, Mom.
Well, there must be something wrong with the satellite data. It might have been tampered with.
Mom.
Well, there must be some explanation for this. I know you're telling the truth, but the satellite data made it look as if you were lying.
Parents are just goofy. When you're growing up, they never buy anything you say. No, it wasn't me, Mom. Don't lie to me. And then you grow up and suddenly you're George frickin' Washington. No, my Johnny said he didn't murder Jack Nicholson, so I believe him. I don't care that you have 15 cameras showing him walking up in front of 50,000 people waving his birth certificate saying, I am Johnny and I'm here to kill Jack Nicholson. No, it couldn't be him. Well, that really doesn't apply to a Picard here because Picard's not his father. Probably. So he goes to see Boothby about Nova Squadron. But the info that he gets is really about Locarno, who made them so great that everyone idolizes them.
He's their coach, surrogate father, and best friend, all in one. A natural leader. The members of that team love him. If he asks them to do something, they do it. Even if it means going right over a cliff.
That point will be important soon. Picard had previously tasked the Royal Smart Persons with looking into this, so Geordi and Data report that they have no explanation for how or why they wound up looking like they did in the picture. So they start listing all the weird shit that was going on, until Picard realizes that one of those weird things is the clue, igniting the plasma as part of a super cool maneuver called a Colvard Starburst. But it's dangerous and has been banned at the Academy ever since the previous class got themselves killed and ruined it for everybody. Wesley hides behind the interpretation that his statements were technically true, but by deliberately withholding the actual cause of the accident, he was lying by omission. The Picard speech is broken out as he talks about their history together, and Picard's epic disappointment in Wesley is all too clear in his tone. Then he delivers the speech that gives the episode its title.
The first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth, whether it's scientific truth, or historical truth, or personal truth. It is the guiding principle on which Starfleet is based. Now, if you can't find it within yourself to stand up and tell the truth about what happened, you don't deserve to wear that uniform.
So you care about my duty? Save the toilet humor for Riker. Don't you mean number one? Damn it, this is serious. You're in deep duty? Get the hell out! What's fascinating about the conflict that Wesley has between his squad leader and his former captain is that they can both be seen as the same person. Picard in his youth was an exceptional athlete, charismatic individual, and gifted. And also...
He was a different person in those days. Arrogant, undisciplined. With far too much ego, far too little wisdom. I started it because I was young and cocky.
And just like Locarno, Picard had gotten himself in trouble in a way that could have gotten him kicked out also. Boothby was the one who got him to do the right thing, which wound up saving his career. Locarno, though, doesn't have a mentor to guide him to do the right thing, so he's just doing what he thinks is best. But that's what's putting Wesley in a difficult position. In essence, young and cocky Picard is telling him one thing, and seasoned Picard is telling him the opposite. Even their approaches to him are similar. Locarno talks about how he took Wesley on board despite his age because he knew he had what it took. Picard says a similar thing when he discusses how he knew that Wesley belonged in Starfleet because of all he had done at the beginning of the series. And after Picard issues an ultimatum, tell the truth or I will, and Wesley talks to Locarno about it, he gives his own speech. And while Picard had appealed to duty to principles, Locarno appeals to duty to the team, that it is more important than any single member of the team. So Wesley's left having to decide which Picard to side with once the hearing comes. The story was changed from the original intent. It was supposed to be that Wesley did what most young men and women would do, to stand with their friends. But it was felt that Wesley had to come forward and tell the truth, set the good example. That story's been around, so I thought I should clarify. It wasn't that Wesley was going to lie to save his ass. The original story was that Wesley and the others were lying to protect Locarno. He would have been the one to be expelled, so they lied to protect him, and by doing so, put themselves in jeopardy as well. So Wesley wasn't lying because he was being self-serving like he would be here. It was risking his future for the sake of his friend. Now, we'll never know whether or not that would have been better or worse, but I thought clearing that up might be important because the rumor going around is that Ron Moore wanted Wesley to just kind of be a dick here. Okay, back to the action. The Admiral rips them a new asshole over this affair, but
The data is faulty in some way. Or you have lied to us. However, suspicion is not proof, and I have no proof that you have lied to this inquiry.
that's why we need more Betazoid superintendents. But Wesley can't take any more and confesses everything, and true to his word, Locarno eventually speaks up on behalf of the team, that this was all his fault and that he should bear the full brunt of the punishment, while the others get off with just being held back. Wesley's naturally disturbed about all that's happened, but he's grateful to Picard for his help, allowing him to echo Boothby's comment about helping Picard do what he knew he had to do.
I just made sure that you listened to yourself.
Post-episode follow-up, knowing character goes to creepy-ass Vulcan guy, assuming that he isn't actually a Romulan. Or Grandpa from the Munsters, each is equally likely. Final score for the first duty is 9 out of 10. It's a great character piece that showed us a Wesley that couldn't do everything, something that was really needed. Mostly great guest stars, Stewart really handling the complexities of his relationship with Wesley magnificently, and Wheaton getting to provide the character with more than just the annoying smile. Of course, the standout guest character in this was Locarno, whose presence was so effective that when the producers were working on Voyager, he came up. Now, there's two arguments that have been made as to why Locarno was transformed into Tom Paris for that show. One is that Locarno's actions left him irredeemable. We need a clean slate for this character in order to have the audience truly accept him. The other explanation is that if you make Locarno a regular, you have to pay royalties to Moore and Shankar every episode he's in, so screw that. Well, I'm inclined to believe the latter, since, well, this ain't exactly unprecedented with this franchise, screwing over the creative people. Whether or not Locarno is irredeemable is debatable, while McNeil, who played the part because they found they couldn't get anyone to give Paris the pizzazz that Locarno had, felt that they were very different characters, and no doubt Tom evolved in a different direction. As established, they seem close enough that Locarno could have followed that path if they really wanted him to. The differences seem to be that Locarno's leadership led to one man dying, and he was found out after he covered it up, and Paris's piloting screw-up led to 3 men dying, and then he covered it up, but then later told the truth. So the difference between the irredeemable behavior is whether or not you own up to your mistake in the end, or if you fail to up until the time that you are found out and then take full responsibility in the hopes of saving others. The difference that seems kind of minuscule. Sure, getting past the guilty conscience is a sign of differences of character, but when you compare against Picard, who still failed to learn his lesson after nearly failing to graduate and had to be stabbed through the heart to really learn it, There's no reason Locarno couldn't have had the similar awakening after he had time to reflect on how he had ruined his life and led to the death of another to allow him to be fully redeemed over time. But like the original version versus the broadcast, it's all just speculation and ultimately not important. Paris worked out fine, and Locarno got to stay in his royalty-free box for all eternity.
Jean-Luc Picard, class of 27.
I know that. What happened to your hair?